Hi, this is the North America Math Contest Go Go Go. This week we are going to talk about PSAT math. So, the first three parts are fractions, even odd relationships, and factors. So let's first talk about the fractions. The fractions have some basic formula. The basic definition of the fraction is this is equal to a divided by b, where b is not 0. Since we know if it is 0, it will be undefined. And then this will be equals to AD times BD, where D is not equal to 0. This will also be important. Third, this is also equals to a, because any number divided by 1 is the original number. So these are the three fundamental theorems of fractions. If you understand them, you will understand how to calculate the fractions, which will be benefit a lot. Now let's talk about our adding and subtracting. Let's talk about adding. If two fractions have the same denominators, then you can just add them up easily. So for example, let's calculate this. Well, we find they have the same denominator of 7, so we know that 7 divided by 7, it is equals to 1. However, what if they are in different denominators? For example, if we have the case of this, what should we do? Now it turns out difficult, but we still have an idea. So we first need to make them into the same denominator. So it will be like b times d and d times b. Then it will be the same. And then based on this formula, we have to time an additional d for him. So this will be AD plus, since we times the b here, then this must also time a b, so CB. And then it will be equals to this. And then we need to talk about an important knowledge. Lowest term. Lowest term means that AB cannot be continued turning smaller anymore. This means that the greatest common divisor of A and B is 1. This is called the lowest term. If this is not equals to 1, then it is not the lowest term. Remember, when you choose the choices on the PSAT, you must choose the answer with the lowest term. If you don't, then it will be considered as wrong. So let's make an example about what is the lowest term. This, right? So now we have three choices. You see, after you calculate, you will find it is equals to this. However, 4 divided by 6 is not in the lowest form because the greatest common divisor of 4 and 6 is 2. So this means that you need to divide both of them by 2, which you get 2, 3. And you will find that C is the correct answer. Now after we talk about all this, what we need to do next is we need to calculate about multiplication and division. So what is multiplication? Multiplication is like this. And then it will have the formula. It will result in this. A times C on the top, B times D on the bottom. Sorry, that was an arrow. Then what about division? If it is a division, you put them into this. And then it will be equal to AD divided by BC. Oh, I'm a genius. So these are the two fundamental theorems, and they will be very important. Let's make an example. Calculate this. So we know it will be equal to 3 times 4, 5 times 7, which is 12 to 35. However, that is not the end. We need to calculate. We need to make it, convert it into the lowest form. So we need to check whether the greatest common divisor of them is what? So we know 35 is 5 times 7 and 12 is 3 times 4. This means that they have no common divisor. And this means that you can just keep the answer like this. Okay. Now we are going to talk about some other formulas that will be used commonly in the PSAT exam. First is this. It will be equal to this divided by B, this. And since we know this formula, right? So it will be equal to this. And it will be equal to this. Well, how did this work? You might be curious. So it will be equal to this and this. Now let's talk about next formula, whether you can get it. 2 is this. How are you going to get it? Well, we know that it's this. It can be simplified into this, and it can, since we know it is this way, after multiplication, it should be make sense into this, and it should be this as a result. Now let's talk about another function that will be used commonly in the PSAT exam, this. Right? So it's 1 divided by this, and it will be equal to this. And it will be equal to 1 divided by x. Finally, to our last solution. This divided by this is equal to this divided by this is equal to 8b times ab is equal to a squared divided by b squared. So these are the common functions that will be tested in the PSAT. So we need to talk now. Next, we need to talk about even-odd relationship and how we can get them. So remember, all these numbers are integers. Remember, integers. So basic theorem you need to remember. If the first odd number is a number that is not divisible by 2, and even number is a number that is divisible by 2. Well, I think everyone should know that. So now let's talk about some theorems. Some fundamental theorems. Odd plus odd is even. Even plus even is even. Even plus odd is odd. Well, how do you remember this? Well, you can just take a number and try it, and you will remember them. Okay. Now we are going to talk about this. How do we Yes. So this, now let's talk about some multiplication idea, application idea. So odd times odd is equals to odd. So how can we like prove it? So I'm going to give you a problem. Prove odd times odd is odd. And now let's see how do we get the solution of it. Well, since we know odd is not divisible by 2, it will be split into a group of this plus, so we know that odd is this. The basic definition of multiplication is to add the numbers in odd number of times. But since it is an odd number, it is not divisible by 2. So this means we can split it into many groups of odd plus odd and leave one odd. Finally, so we know every group of odd plus odd is even. So we know that even plus even is even. So we know that this will be simplified into one case, even plus odd. And since we know that even plus odd is odd, the final answer is going to be odd. Now let's talk about even times even. Using the fundamental theorem, the basic definition of the multiplication again. Even number of even, right? So we can divide it into different cases of even plus even, even plus even. And there will be no one single even left. So this means that we add up every group. Every group is even. So this means that after we do a series of calculation, we will find that the number is even. Well, it may seem confusing, so let me make an example. We are going to divide it into groups of even, and then it will work. Now let's talk about odd to the power of odd. This is equals to odd. Since we know that odd times odd is odd, so this means that no matter how many times we calculate odd, it will always be odd. And this we can also prove that odd times even is also odd. Because no matter how many times we time this, the result is always going to be odd. Now let's talk about even. Since we know every time even times even is even, so no matter how many times we times even, no matter how many times we time the even number, the result is always going to be even. So this means that in both cases, it will be equals to, it will both be equals to even. So this is how we do it. Now let's talk about factorizations, which this reveals into many ways of calculation. You need to calculate many times. Okay. Okay. So first, A, B, C, those serves as variables. First, basic knowledge. And similarly, minus also works. So you can cross them out. AB minus AB is always 0. So these three are the fundamental theorems of factors. And if you understand them, then it will be easy for you to get the rest of the answers, get the rest of the formulas. So first, let's talk about this. The famous formula, this is equal to this. So now we can expand them. Remember the way of expansion. This times this times this times this. First is the basic expansion knowledge. So this will be equals to this plus this plus this plus this. How are we able to get it? To get it, since we know that AB plus CB is equal to A plus CB, so we make B equals to A plus B, and then we can make it into this. CA plus B. This, right? After that, using the law of expansion, which is the opposite way of calculating from here to there. This will be equals to CA plus CB plus DA plus DB. And then you get the same answer of that. So this is the basic knowledge of expansion. And then we calculate. We need to know about this and this. These two are very important because they are commonly tested on the PSAT. So first, this is going to be equal to A plus B, A plus B. It will be equals to A squared plus 2AB plus AB plus B squared to be equal to A squared plus B squared plus 2AB. So on the opposite, we can also infer another function. This will be equal to this. Perfect. And now it's a famous formula. This is equal to A squared minus B squared. So it will be equal to A squared plus AB minus AB minus B squared. It will be same to this. So here, we finish all the theory parts of the PSAT for the first three knowledge. Fractions, even odd relationships, and the factorization. It is called factors. Now we are going to do some problems to make the idea more clear and help us get better scores on PSAT mathematics. Now we are going to talk about some problem regards the application of them. First, it's about simplification. 35 times 15. Find your answers. This problem can be done in 10 seconds. Well, some people might just choose to get it into this step and calculate 130, 140 times 75 directly. No, don't do that. Simplify. Do I remember to tell you the simplification rule? AD BD is equal to AB. So this means that you need to simplify it as small as possible. So we find this 140, there is a 35. So cancel this and you get 1. Here is 75 and here is 15. So you get 5 and 1. Yes, so using this way, you can use factorial. So we can use another way since we know that it can be divided into this. So you use this to simplify them separately. So it will be equals to 20. The answer of it will be equal to 20 at last. This is problem 1. Problem 2. sorry. Times p, find p. For this problem, it requires a cancelling. So you know that here it is equal to 15 divided by 14. So we know that the both sides has 15 and 15 divided by 14. So you can divide both sides by 15 divided by 14. So you can cancel them out and you can get that p is equals to, p is equals to 9 divided by 8. This is the second problem. The third problem is the very famous problem that is commonly used. This problem. So you can expand them. And you will find that all 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 things can be cancelled. So you know that after simplification, it will be only equals to 1 divided by 4. So it will be equal to this as the final answer. So these are some skills that you can do in order to make it more easy to solve for fractions. Finally, let's talk about the variables problem. So let's first calculate about this. So we know that it will be equal to this, right? 2wxy. Then it will be equals to 2wxy plus 2wxy. Then it is going to be 4wxy. And here we come to the end of this chapter, and I hope you have learned a lot. See you next week. Bye! For the even-odd relationship, now we are going to do a simple problem to see how it works. This problem, we are going to find whether this is always odd or even. So we can get this. It is equals to 14j, right? If even times odd, then it is going to be even. If even, then it's also going to be even. So we know that this problem is going to be 14j.